Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I thank the Cabinet Secretary for early sight of his statement? And of course, we wholeheartedly support Europe Day 2023, a day to celebrate peace and unity throughout Europe. Indeed, we are united in our support for Ukraine as the Russian invasion continues into its second year. Europe Day was, of course, first celebrated by the Council of Europe, and the United Kingdom is a founding member of the Council of Europe and, of course, remains one. In his statement, the Cabinet Secretary set out the government's commitment to remain aligned with EU laws. However, the reality of how this policy has been implemented tells its own story. After all the fire and brimstone we heard from Mike Russell, his predecessor, during the passage of this legislation in this very chamber, how many times has the Scottish Government used the formal keeping pace power since 2021? Just once. A perfect example of the SNP virtue signalling over proper policy making. But in truth, the Scottish Government has chosen to not align with the EU on a wide variety of issues. And we welcome this bespoke Scottish approach. But why on earth does the Government keep up this facade of alignment? So can I ask here, the Cabinet Secretary, will he now listen to the warnings of many in rural Scotland who have said that full alignment with the EU would be devastating? And will the Government commit to only adopting laws that suit Scotland best while remaining aligned with our largest trading partner, the rest of the UK?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, can I start off with words of agreement? I think it's great to hear from the Conservative benches that they also recognise today is Europe Day, that they welcome that they think that that is worthy of being marked. And it's also helpful, I think, to hear the important genesis of European institutions emanating from the Council of Europe. For those, the non-initiates, and I know that the honourable and learned gentleman opposite, being a lawyer to trade, understands the importance of the human rights aspect that the Council of Europe has brought to the standards right across our continent, not just within the European Union, and I think underlines the reason how bad it would be were there to be any stepping back from our shared human rights standards across our continent. I think the only countries that have resiled from European standards in the Council of Europe are the Russian Federation and Belarus, and we certainly should not be following that example. On the issue of different ways in which one can remain aligned with European legislation, I think Donald Cameron chose to concentrate on one route in which one can remain aligned. Of course, there are a number of ways and different ways of doing that. I think it's fair to say that it is important that our committee structure should be able to best understand why using this legislation or not using that legislation, why do it in different ways. And that's why the Scottish Government is updating its approach, particularly in the context of the retained EU law situation, because I think it's absolutely right for parliamentarians right across Parliament to have the best information to hand to hold government to account on these matters. He knows that I spent 10 years on the European Scrutiny Committee in the House of Commons, so it's a matter that lies close to my heart. I've given the committee the undertaking that I want that to be as meaningful and workable as possible. I give that commitment again in the Chamber, and I'm not entirely sure whether he meant to say that, but I very much welcome Donald Cameron saying he welcomes the bespoke approach of the Scottish Government, and I do too.